So, who's heard of the Cartesian Split? Jambor, okay. This is an idea, this is a philosophy that has so profoundly impacted all of us that we live our entire lives influenced strongly by someone who was trying to figure out life in the 1600s. Now, if you get to know about this Cartesian split, this is essentially what it says. It says that body and mind are separate. That matter is separate from that kind of mind or spirit. That some things are just dead. They're just matter. Now, this conclusion has impacted us in so many ways. I'm not just bringing up a random philosophy to pontificate on your Sunday afternoon. This is what he said. There exist no occult forces in stones or in plants. There's no amazing or marvelous sympathies or antipathies. In fact, there exists nothing in the whole of nature which cannot be explained in terms of purely corporeal causes, totally devoid of mind and thought. Essentially, some things are just dead matter, and some of us are really alive. Now, what you get taught in that is the value of separation and alienation. And when you are separate from something and alienated from something, you also learn domination. Now, this has implications for all of our lives. First, it implicates you personally. One, you grow up in a world that you think you are actually separate from. You grow up in a world that you think is actually not really alive like you are. You're human with mind and consciousness. Surely this plant or that creature or that other is not as alive or as wise or as conscious as I am. So what that does when you're a young person is you move through your entire beautiful life later having to unlearn the thing you knew as a child, which is the world is alive. You also have entire studies devoted to trying to prove that, in fact, humans are the most alive things that there are. Certainly on top of every chain, animals actually are put through tests. Have you heard of the mirror test? Some of you have. The mirror test is a scientist's way of trying to figure out if animals know themselves. So we actually put lots of other creatures to test, to prove to us that they know themselves. Do you see how funny this is? In that sad, funny way. We actually want other creatures to prove to us that they are in fact as alive as we are. This has influenced your life. You have a theology. If you add this in, if you grew up in a tradition that told you that you are not of this world, if you grew up in a tradition that told you that, suddenly you don't have much left to hold you accountable to matter. Hell, you're going to go to hell or heaven. You don't need to worry about these other beings that are not actually really alive or going to meet you when you get there. Suddenly, you don't have a lot that holds you accountable to the place that you call home. This also has implications for the way you treat other people. So this philosopher didn't come out of anywhere. This philosopher came out of a time of colonialism. Now, it helps to dominate other people if you don't really believe they're as alive as you are. See how easy that is? If you believe that some of this world is really dead and some of it's really alive and some of it's sub-alive and open to your domination, it is actually incredibly convenient to colonialism for you to believe that. So it matters what you think about matter. I know it sounds possibly like some strange scientific sermon where I'm digging at a point that doesn't really exist. I promise you it does. What you think about the nature of this world will determine how you show up in it, how you treat yourself, how you treat all of this creation, and how you treat other people inside of it. So if a split between body and mind has influenced all of us, we have some repair work to do. There's something that matters here, if you would allow me. We deal with this split. We make repair when we challenge the idea that some things are dead and some things are alive. When we challenge the idea that some things are really separate and self-contained and not really interdependent. I mean, I'm a Unitarian Universalist and we have that principle about interdependence, but I don't really mean it. I am a self-contained, independent individual and you have no power over me. We challenge that as a lie. We challenge it when we challenge the idea that because some of us think that the thing out there is other than me, that the natural way then that I would see it is an object to me. Because if it's not really alive, certainly it's available for my use or abuse. All of these are ours to challenge. Luckily, we are not alone. Our scripture for today is quantum physics, indigenous wisdom, and feminists. You can applaud. Yes. We've got quantum physics, indigenous wisdom, and feminism to help us through the split. 1, quantum physics knows nothing's really dead. A recent Scientific American article talks with a title that said, maybe the hippies got it right. It's really about the vibrations, man. To say that at the core of our being is motion. And that as motion, the energy that shifts within each of us grows in relationship to other motion and becomes more complex, we are in resonance. That is what creates consciousness. What that means is that matter is not dead with consciousness some kind of separate thing, but that consciousness is a quality of matter. That is cool. Now, it doesn't even matter, if you'll let me say that again, it doesn't even matter if it's a human, even that rock, that certainly a cousin will tell you, well, that's not really alive, is it? When you tell them about your tradition saying you are interdependent, indeed, that too is resonating, just at a different frequency. So the fundamental nature of our being, thank you, quantum physics, is energy and relationship, not dead. Indigenous wisdom. There is a Hawaiian elder, Dr. Manulani Meyer. She did her PhD at Harvard on how you can know Hawaiian wisdom through Hawaiian language. That the words we use matter, and that the language itself reveals what we know about the world. And in her work, she looks at how Hawaiian knowledge and wisdom aligns with quantum physics. Quite a cool approach to say that actually the fact that anyone has to unlearn separation, meaning here we've learned it all our lives and now we have to unlearn it and really believe in our connection, that is worth grieving because not all of us have to unlearn it. Some of us who come from traditions that have an intact relationship with place and people know that yes, you have always been connected. And the words she uses is that relationship is not a noun, it's a verb. Relationship in motion is a verb. It is a thing that we do in co-creation with the universe. She was on a web call with a class that I was in, and there was a student in our class, a young white woman, who was describing the ache and sadness she has at having to unlearn some of the things she's learned about walking on this planet. And Dr. Manu says, this is what you need to do. Forgive your sense of separation and work towards union. Forgive your elitism and work towards learning. Gather yourself. It is the quality of your relationships that is evolution. Feminist philosopher Kelly Oliver. She's looking at old school philosophy, and in some old school philosophy, there's a really clear idea that there's only one way to have a relationship. Someone has power and someone doesn't. So in much of our philosophical tradition, written by white men, bless all of them, there is an understanding that there is one way to have a relationship. Now, in this particular philosophy, she is saying, if in fact our world is full of matter, so if the space between me and Pam is not an actually empty space at all, but it is full of the flesh of the world, then our duty as flesh of the world is to actually co-create with each other. My ethical obligation as a being that is matter, that is evolving, is that I must look to Pam, beautiful as she is. I must look to Pam and respond to Pam in a way that allows Pam the possibility of response. Do you hear that? When I am with Pam, the goal is not my domination of Pam, subtle or overt. The goal in our relationship as co-created matter is that when we are together, we open up the possibility of response in the other. Meaning we and our relationships are not just random relationships, they're intentionally creative so that we are evolving with this planet. An ethical obligation. So what that means for us theologically, and we've talked about how Unitarian Universalism is not just a place we come to believe whatever we want to believe, but that we actually have beliefs. And here's another. We believe this world is actually alive. We believe this world is actually interdependent. And we believe that we and each other are part of it. That is a belief that we hold as an ethical obligation. Now, if you're at a place where you're thinking, Rev Sam, my head hurts, why are we talking about this? Anyone there? Yeah, Anne is rubbing Bob's head in the back. Why are we talking about this? Because 2 reasons. One, you have a personal opportunity to live as the flesh of the world. You have an opportunity to be sensitive to the world again and responsive to the world again, as if the world has a right to your attention. To live with others and to live with matter, all of it, as if it deserves your attention. That is why the words Black Lives Matter is also a theological statement about the value of Black life. That is why Water is Life at Standing Rock meant that there was a theological statement about the value, not just because we drink it, of water. We have that personal responsibility. Neil deGrasse Tyson has this very famous quote, astrophysicist. He's reflecting in this interview about the experience of realizing that the iron in our blood matches the iron in a meteor that hit the earth. And he's in a workshop of people, and he says that when I consider this truth, it makes me want to grab people on the street and shake them and say, have you heard this? What would it be like if you lived that close to the heart of the world? If you really let yourself believe that it each mattered. This matters to us as a congregation. We are about to build a very matter-filled structure. We are looking at a building that is full of possibility, physical possibility. We are secretly planning color schemes. I see all of you. You all secretly talk to me as if I'm not hearing it from everyone else. We are planning what we want on the patio. We are planning who gets to have the big windows. Where are we going to put each other? Of course, the matter matters. The design that we create to hold ourselves matters. And what also matters is that we know what we're holding. That we know what we are holding is worthy of growing. And that it matters that we get together. Do you know why this church matters to you? Do you know? Consider this. That our work these months as renovations happen and decisions get made that you don't agree with, that what matters is the thing we are evolving inside of it. Hold that in your hearts, cosmos and stardust, evolving through time and space, that we build an institution that holds an evolution and a revolution of the heart. May it be so. Amen.